If I had to give a ballpark of how much time I've personally invested playing asymmetrical horror games, it would easily reach over 10,000 hours. I've been playing Asym games since Dead by Daylight nearly 9 years ago, and I have played most of his competitors to say, I think I know what makes a good asymmetrical game. If it isn't all that clear, or if you just simply don't know, this channel has and will always have something to do with Asym games. It's just the genre type that I enjoy the most and feel like I have a lot to say about them. Now, there are plenty of Asym games on Roblox, although it does feel like only a few really stand out and have a decent player base. I do know the existence of old Asym games, but for the most part, I'm not really going to be talking about them. People bring these games up for discussion as they may have grown up with them, but a lot of these games are simply old and outdated. And the reason why I bring that up is because a lot of these old games lack any sort of depth or replayability. With the combination of games I've played before and games recommended by you guys in a community post I made a while ago, I've made a list of Asym games that I will talk about in detail. Things I like about them, things I don't like about them, just general feedback and constructive criticism. Although I should note this, I'm not gonna beat around the bush, alright? If I don't like something, I'm gonna be honest about it. I would be lying if I said I enjoy all the games I'm gonna be talking about, but I will at least be saying why I don't particularly enjoy them. Of course, these will just be my pure unfiltered opinions, so just because I may not enjoy these games or aspects of them, maybe you would. I say this so you guys don't use my arguments as a way to harass developers of any of the games I'm gonna be talking about. Anyways, here is the list of games I'm gonna be talking about. There will be timestamps, so feel free to skip around at any point you're most interested in. I will most likely be spending more time talking about games such as Pillar Chase and Forsaken, as I have invested a lot more time into them. This isn't supposed to be like a super in-depth review of these games, as I haven't sunk that much time into all of the games I'm going to be talking about, but I feel like I've played enough to where I can confidently say what I like and don't like about them. Also, there is one game here that might stand out as a non-Asym game, but let me reassure you, Reality Compromise is absolutely an Asym game. It might not be classified as a horror Asym game, but it certainly comes across scarier than a game like Break-In and Steal Things, which apparently people classify that as an Asym game, but not Reality Compromise. So just to make sure we're all on the same page, an Asym game, usually tied in with horror, but doesn't have to be, is a type of game where by design has opposing sides with differing objectives, gameplay mechanics, and usually an uneven playing field. All of the games I'm going to be talking about usually has one or two killers, with the opposing side working against them. Sure, Reality Compromise has two sides with the same objective, being to kill the opponent, but one side plays as a merc by themselves, and the other side is everyone else playing as the agents. The gameplay design having those two roles being uneven in player count makes it an Asym game. If you want to argue why I'm wrong about that, you can go ahead and write it down, and maybe you'll make me look like an idiot, but I'm still going to be talking about the game in this video because I feel like it. I would personally classify Reality Compromise as a juggernaut Asym game. Anyways, before I start essentially ranting, let me just quickly go over some notable game suggestions and why I didn't really feel like talking about them. Sonic.exe The Disaster is basically Outcome Memories, but worse and dead. Roblox Until Dawn is basically Sonic.exe The Disaster, but with Roblox myth characters instead. Dimensional Coalescence looks too dumb for me to actually even play. No offense to the developers. Stark Reborn is an example of an old game that lacks much depth, but I am actually excited to see the remake, as I've heard that's been in the works. Violence District is just Dead by Daylight with a different coat of paint. Midnight Fears doesn't stand out as interesting or innovative. Bears Alpha seems boring. Flee the Facility is flawed, unbalanced, and just lacks depth. And that's pretty much it. I'm sure there are more games I missed, like Reckless, but I mean, most of them just don't really seem interesting to me. Again, that's not to say that any of these are particularly bad games. I just don't find them interesting enough to talk about. Before I start, I just want to point out that I'm going to be talking about the current version of the game. There is a recode of the game that B.I.A.S.T has been working on, and even though we've had glimpses of it, I'm not going to be talking about it at all. Pillar Chase. The game that basically got this channel to where it is now. This game didn't just heavily impact me though. It is one of those games that's done quite a lot in the community. This game was used as an inspiration for the creation of Forsaken. But a cooler achievement? This game brought so much more attention on certain media. I never knew about Coronation Day. I never knew about Vita Mimic. I completely forgot about Uncle Samsonite. I don't know, it's just like, I don't know why I don't really hear anyone talk about it. Like, is it just me? Am I the only one who thinks it's actually cool that this game did that? I'm not saying that this game is the only reason why some of these characters or stories are looked at, but they sure as hell got a bunch of people to look into it, you know? Despite the game not being the first Asym game, I do believe it is a game that's gotten a lot more people playing Roblox again, even if just temporary, to play Pillar Chase. Something that I really liked about Pillar Chase in the olden days was how frequent we were getting new monsters. Like straight up, we were getting a new monster like every 1 or 2 weeks. It was awesome. It always made it worth it to just keep playing the game because there'd always be something to look out for. Of course, no one expected the game to continue that spree. I mean, adding that many monsters consistently would be too difficult to balance around, but still, it was nice while we had it. I think now is the time I dwell deep into the game's core issues and my general peeves with the decisions that are made. Me personally, I stopped playing the game as frequently as I did around the time the evil hedgehog with red eyes was released, for 2 reasons. 1, I did not enjoy his release. Thought it was really, really bad. The movesets were both not fun to use nor engaging to go against, and the community will brainwash you thinking that he was in a okay spot to how he was on release from how he is now. Well, was. He doesn't exist anymore. He got shot off camera. That's not to say this character was the reason why the game went downhill, although it definitely made a big impact on that. There are a handful of characters in the cast that were pretty poorly made. Okay, maybe poorly made isn't the right way to put it. It was more so that these characters were just really unfun to go against, and this was a problem because these characters were played the most. I couldn't even experience much of Jeff or Valem during the release because people were still just playing this character. I really, really wish he had a fun moveset to go against because then I just wouldn't mind it that much. I can go against a lot of monsters back to back all the time, like MX, or back then anyway, and I wouldn't mind it that much because the movesets were fun to go against. Which brings me to what you could call... Technically, we've always had upgrades for survivors, but they'd often just switched up how you played the game for the worse, which was fine. There'd be a high upside, but a pretty bad downside with a few exceptions. Either way, these upgrades weren't permanent back then, and all of that was changed during a rework Blade wanted to do. And I'll just say it here, these upgrades absolutely ruined the game, and it upsets me that we're still having them in the recode version, and I'm going to explain to you why they are bad. But before I do that, let me explain to you why they were added. They were added to combat the boring Survivor gameplay experience. Survivor abilities equals more options. More options equals better gameplay, right? No. Sure, you gave survivors more options, but you made the monster gameplay so much worse. The actual fun part about the game. As far as teleporting with the rewind upgrade or getting a fast sprint with energy burst. So much bullshit. And you know the worst part? These upgrades barely help you escape chases. If you go back to where the survivor teleported, they're out of stamina. If you just continue chasing the survivor that used energy burst, they're out of stamina. If someone uses super slide, they're out of stamina. I'm not saying that these upgrades can't help you escape chases, but more times than not, all it does is extend the inevitable. It's so one-dimensional that once you understand that, it's just fucking boring to go against. Along with that, the monster has even less time to kill, which makes monster gameplay less satisfying. There is an upgrade that just makes you explode, which, to be honest, is actually pretty funny, but its entire purpose is to make the monster lose more time. These upgrades were added because the survivor gameplay had to be made less boring. But you want to know the real reason why it's boring? It's because of the monsters. These characters made playing Survivor boring because their movesets are awful. You have to make abilities engaging to go against. You can't just focus on how it feels to use them as monster. And if you make an ability engaging to play around, then the moveset feels more satisfying to use. Ink fell in hide and seek. I'm gonna have so much fun. Jeff two-tapping me while I'm doing an objective. Should have seen that coming. Uncle Samsonite's whole gimmick is based around bullshit. Literally. Every rework that Uncle Samsonite's had has amplified what is strong about him and bad about him. And I feel like I've said that multiple times on this channel. Every rework has made it easier for him to secure a kill, but harder to get to that position in the first place. I've already mentioned this in a previous video, but the maps are so bad to play on, man. I feel like these maps have a lot more thought put into them in the visual sense, but gameplay wise, they just fucking suck, dude. Like Black Sun, Pillars, Dungeon, they're not that bad. But literally every other map have their own glaring issues. Examples? Oni's Mansion is way too big now. Joy of Creation and the Ward are dark as shit. Schoolhouse. Okay, never mind. The touches on this map have made it a lot better. You go over here now. Yummy. Hide and seek and my world, you need to die. Mainland, you're bigger than my stomach, bro. Like, these maps just ain't it. Like, visually great. Gameplay, pretty bad. Dreadful to an extent. That is the first reason I stopped playing the game. The second reason is Forsaken is a game I didn't expect to blow up as much as it did. It is an incredibly successful game that has overcome its past controversies. Kinda. This game is talked about a lot negatively, and a lot of it stems from the small yet vocal side of the community. Is this game worth criticizing? Well, every game is. No game will ever be perfect. But does Forsaken deserve the amount of criticism it gets? In terms of gameplay? No, not as much as it gets. Forsaken, gameplay-wise, is still pretty damn good. Killer's movesets are done pretty well. The balancing is really solid for an asymmetrical game. And the music, despite me preferring how it used to sound, it still holds up pretty well. I'm personally not a huge fan of the whole Forsaken album thing, as it kind of just makes it seem like we're trying to add music to the game to be listened outside of the game. And the fact that the majority of the soundtracks come from Chase themes. Look, people may not like the old music because it doesn't sound pleasant, but did we forget that they're supposed to be Chase themes? It should sound like you're being hunted down. It's more than just giving Chase themes energy. And it's because of what the Chase themes in the game lack that make me not like a good chunk of the current soundtrack. Not to intentionally glaze here, but xXthecurseXx actually does a pretty solid job with his retakes. And I'm pretty positive the reason why these themes haven't reached that much attention is because they're not meant to be listened outside of the game. And that is a good thing. Going over the gameplay, there are a few aspects that we can talk about specifically. Movesets, balancing, maps, and performance. I think both movesets and balancing in Forsaken are done really well. Is it perfect? No, of course not. There's no universe where the majority of players will agree that the balancing will be good in an Asym game, especially a Roblox one. But the majority of movesets in the game are done really well. For survivors, I think the only movesets I don't really care too much about are the survivalists. But I think that just comes down to my personal playstyle. I like having an impact on the match and being able to engage with the killer, which is why I prefer playing sentinels and supports. And for all of those characters, I think they're done pretty well. I think 2-time could still use some adjusting, as trick stabbing is still relatively easy to pull off and bullshit to go against.
What? Like, there was nothing I could do.
Guess 1337 is a character that a lot of people like to say is the worst survivor or worst sentinel, but he's just not. He's my favorite sentinel to play as, and overall he's just more fun to play as than Jed. Now for killers, sure, some movesets may be basic, but I wouldn't have played the game as long as I have if it weren't for just how well executed the movesets are. Sure, Jason, Flasher, whatever, might be a little basic, but he's still a fun character to play as whenever you just want to turn off your brain. You still need to be good as killer to win as him, along with any of the other killers currently in game. Cool Kid's dash is still pretty fun to use and has situational uses as well. 1x can be hard to play as, but satisfying to land projectiles. And Noli. Noli is still probably my favorite killer in the game right now. The additional mechanic of going really fast at the start of the dash once you've landed at least one hit is really fun to use. But this killer does also have my least favorite moveset in the entire game. I really dislike Hallucination. I think the coding portion of it is done really well. The fake clones are convincing for the most part, but I really hate the concept of the passive. Players who are new will get absolutely demolished and left in confusion from the fake nollies and not knowing if the generator they are doing is fake or not. And players who aren't new still have to deal with fake nollies. Even if you spot a fake nollie, you still have to play around it via running and dodging its attack for it to eventually disappear. Sure, it doesn't do any real damage to you, but it will annoy you, like kicking off of generators until you avoid getting hit for a certain amount of time until it goes away. Sure, Noli is really fun to play as, but dealing with Hallucination as a survivor is really obnoxious. Aside from movesets though, the maps are also just pretty decent. There's nothing inherently bad about any of them. Every map has loop areas and opportunities to cut survivors off and areas to zone survivors into. The inclusion of the killer walkthrough walls are also really nice and are put in spots where they are definitely needed. So map designers have honestly done a pretty good job with that. Also, Underground War, surprisingly, isn't that bad either. I was pretty confident that there would be a lot of issues with it, but just like with the other maps, there are areas you can punish survivors with by zoning and areas you can catch them off guard. It's not a perfect map, but it's much better than what I expected it to be. I do think some maps could probably still use some adjustments though, such as Resting Place and Assassin's Ground. Assassin's Ground can feel kinda awkward to play when being chased, as there's not a lot of loops, and Resting Place still feels like it's just a tad bit too large. All right. One last thing I want to talk about Forsaken, and I feel like I gotta bring it up, bro. There are so many skins, yet I swear I only see like the same 3 skins over and over again. Gasharpoon, Gasharporn? How do you fucking say Gasharpoon, Hacklord, Vocaloid skin, Gasharpoon, Hacklord, Vocaloid skin. I don't know what the exact number is, but I'm pretty sure that the ratio of skins to new characters is like 1 to 100. And again, just want to emphasize, we only have 1 new killer. Okay, post at a time. Okay, I am writing this on the 3rd of October, 4 days after xXthecurseXx and Veronica has released. Aside from Noli not being the latest killer released, everything else I said in the video is still accurate. Major updates like these still take way too long, but to give the benefit here, the new update did kinda go fucking fire. Both of the new characters, while not being perfect, are still fun in their own right. The new songs added are also really good. I intend on making a full-fleshed video talking about the new update in more depth, so here's what I'll say for now. Hallucination is still the worst moveset in Forsaken in my opinion, but Hemorrhage is probably the second. Well, it's not really a moveset, but it's a debuff Sixer can give to survivors. I really don't like the debuff as an anti-heal, as it basically forces you to actually have to rely on your teammates, just so you can heal. It's one thing to want help from a teammate to give you pizza or stun the killer mid-chase. It's another to rely on a teammate just to allow yourself to get healed, which is really bad whenever you're playing a character that has like self-sustainability like V or Shedlesky. I don't want to criticize Sixer or V too much, as they're still new characters and I know they're going to be ironed out within the next couple of days or weeks. But yeah, just wanted to say this to keep the video dated, as this information is relevant. But nothing else about the update changes the feedback I've given. So back to it! Something I'm really upset about is that none of the skins really feel that special anymore. But that's kind of what happens when you release like 50 new skins every update. Some of the skins were just one-off jokes and were only added because it was funny at the time. Some of the skins shouldn't even be here anymore. I get that these skins were added a long time ago, but with how popular this game is and how it's clearly moving away from its original identity to be more broad and more kid-friendly, I don't know. Point is, these skins gotta go away, bro. I am sure most people watching probably know what this skin originates from, but this skin also gotta go, bro. I think the skin edition is awesome and it's a callback to my childhood, but we don't need like 10-year-olds searching up where some of these skins came from, dude. The source material is incredibly inappropriate. Again, this is what happens when you try making identity a lot more broad so you can get those epic collabs in. Fucking the skins just look like fucking Fortnite at this point, dude. Also, as a side note, get this XP friend boost off my screen, bro. I'm getting PTSD seeing this from all the slop games on the site. I don't care if it's good for retention. Get this shit off my screen. There's honestly a lot more I could say, like about skin recognizability, as I'm really annoyed by how that's handled, but I think I've said enough. Most of my issues surrounding Forsaken is just the direction it's taking. Gameplay, for the most part, is still really, really good, which is why I still think it's the only actual good Roblox Asym game out there for replayability. If you are a Sonic or an .exe fan, you'll probably love the visuals and aesthetic of the game. The models look awesome, the soundtrack made for it sounds really good, and the maps themselves also look visually pleasing. I'm not well versed into Sonic related stuff, but I can clearly tell that this game was purely made with passion and love for the characters. Pretty much every area of aesthetic seems pretty spot on and doesn't disappoint. Some of the survivor characters are also fun to play as. Almost every survivor has some means of stunning the executioner, so most of the time you play, you will be actively engaging with the killer. Also, the cosmetics for the game look really good, and customization feels a lot less limited compared to other games, as you're able to pick and choose what part of the character is changed. Unfortunately, that is where the nice comments of the game must come to an end. What happens when you only have one playable killer in an Asym game? A killer that just so happens to be so horribly designed that nobody wants to play them. You get a bad game. This is one of the worst Asym games I've ever played in my life. I do not say that in an objective sense, but I don't mean it lightly either. Where in every Asym game there is one power roll, in Outcome Memories, the executioner just feels like a kid getting bullied in a playground by like 30 adult men. 2011X, the only currently playable killer since the release, is so bad to play as that literally nobody wants to play him. Like, you know it's bad when everybody has their EXE run disabled. Playing as 2011X is incredibly obnoxious as you have to try way too hard to get any sort of success. It's not really fun having to deal with survivors constantly jumping, avoiding attacks, or using stun abilities that you have little to no time to react to. Going against some survivors in the game is just entirely based around you trying to bait their parry ability out so that you don't get punished. Survivors messing up their abilities doesn't feel that punishing, and even successfully baiting out abilities is barely rewarding, as you have to worry about everyone else trying to stun you. Not to mention, as the executioner, you are forced, like actually forced, to tunnel specific survivors early on if you want any chance of winning. If you leave Cream alive, they will heal survivors, which will make all the progress you made go to shit. If you leave Metal alive, they will just self-repair in the corner. If you don't pay attention to Sonic at all times, or even get stunned just once, he'll get his passive up by hitting you, which causes him to avoid getting hit. If you don't tunnel Amy alive, she'll use her stun card to passive heal survivors around her. If you don't tunnel Tails on open maps, you'll risk getting stunned at the worst time possible, losing any pressure you may have had. Generally speaking, it is really easy to lose all of your map pressure. Stuns usually take like 3 to 4 seconds, but it can go higher if characters like Sonic or Knuckles decide to use their ability to extend it. This game just feels atrocious to play as the killer. And anyone defending the gameplay with, well, just wait for the new execution, it'll be a lot better, that's not a good sign. As fun as these survivors' abilities can be, it does just feel like bullying. Most survivor stun abilities are barely punishable and are way too easy to land, which makes them somewhat unsatisfying to use. I hate you! I hate you! Aside from the 2011X gameplay currently being an abysmal dog shit, let's get to the nitpicks, as this game have some that are incredibly annoying. Like the mouse sensitivity in the lobby feels like it's a 1% for some reason. The shop, despite it looking good, has awful navigation and the transitions take way too long. And there's no timer in the shop. So you literally just don't know when the match is about to start or end. And being in the shop makes it that you don't go into the character selection screen, meaning you don't play the next match if you're still in the shop screen. Oh shit, the game's about to start, isn't it?
Yep.
Oh, come on! You can't even use the shop when you're dead. Oh my god, why am I forced to only go in the shop and like private servers or some shit? Why am I only limited to only the intermission time or when I first join a lobby? I have no fucking idea how none of this has been fixed. People keep praising the game for having active development. You fix the game, dog! Or do I happen to be the only person complaining about this? It sucks not being a Sonic fan because I know people will just blindly ignore the blatant issues with the game and then just call me a hater of the game because it has characters I don't really care about. Like, no, it doesn't matter if the source material is something I hate or love. If something is done right, I will give it praise. If something is done wrong, I will call it out. I wouldn't have even spoken about Outcome Memories if it wasn't for the clear amount of work and passion put into the game. I genuinely don't give a shit about Sonic games, but Outcome Memories is a very well-made game, so I was willing to give it a shot. So it's not my fault, okay, that they decided to go with the disaster blueprint for the gameplay. The probably worst structure for an Asym game I have ever seen.
Time to stand here and do nothing. Good ability design.
Disagree, okay. Man. You're gonna have a bad time, dude.
I gotta love how bullshit that is.
What was that, like 12 seconds? What the fuck is wrong with these people? Who made this game? That was like a 12-second stun. Who the fuck made this game?
And I'm not even going to bother talking about the bugs because there are so much more apparent issues in the game. I mentioned in a previous description that I was going to hold off criticism on the game, as back then the game was still really early in development, but I feel like I had to talk about the game in this video. It's been over 2 months and all of these issues have been apparent since day one and have not been addressed at all. It's cool that the team is trying to make new content, but you guys are killing me, man. I know I spoke incredibly negatively here, so I'm sorry, but I'm here to talk about what I feel about games, and This is genuinely how I feel about this one. I want the game to be better. Trust me, I do. But until this character's movesets are replaced, or just an entirely different character replaces them, this will continue to be an atrocious game to play as the Executioner, aka the power roll, aka what should be the fun part of the game. Please don't tell me it's my turn. Are you fucking serious?
I'm back.
Back to back on this map?
Nobody else has EXE selected.
I hate this music. Hearing this music makes me want to curb stomp a 2-year-old.
This game's so fun! I love this game. I love the game. I love Sonic.exe. I love EXE. I love EXE. Ha!
Why do I get on the spring and it makes me go like halfway? Oh, and you guys never had a Scary's Orange. Arguably the worst crime of them all. This is probably the currently best casual Asym game on here. There are a lot of concepts and game mechanics implemented that make it really hard to take seriously, and that's probably for the best for people who want to play it. This game doesn't disguise itself as an incredibly well-balanced game, and I kind of like that. There are a lot of random factors in the game, such as random cards, abilities, even game modes that can change how the game is played drastically. And it's not even just like being able to have 2 killers. No. There's a game mode where everybody spawns with the same deck with the objective to kill the killer. There's a game mode where everyone but one survivor is the killer. There's one that has like a giant evil ball that chases the closest person with random speed and instantly kills. There's even a game mode that makes everyone the killer with the objective of being the last killer standing. The killer cast is pretty cool, I guess. I think these are original characters. I'm not entirely sure, but I assume they are, in which I will admit that they have a charm to them. I do think that the matches for killer can often feel pretty frustrating, as if you have survivors constantly stun or heal, it doesn't feel like you can do that much. There are even cards you can get that have special properties, where if you have the boost pad and the healing ability, the pad will instead give health, which is really strong. A lot of these special cards are incredibly rare to come by, but I do think the inclusion of it is pretty cool. I think the only real problem I have with, I guess, the balancing is that chases can often take too long, and most kills you get aren't going to be based around chase commitment, but rather just steady damage of whoever is close to you. So yeah, getting kills just feels like you're endlessly tapping survivors until one randomly drops dead. I don't think that's an inherently bad thing, and since the killer is unable to view the health of survivors, it seems like that is an intentional game decision. A lot of the problems I have with the game, though, could be resolved if the devs decided to fix what I believe is the game's weakest point. You should know already that I don't mean the visuals. I think visually the maps look good. Some maps even sound pretty good, and some don't. Actually, now that I think about it, the music in the entire game is just a giant hit or miss for me. Despite me liking some of the map themes, being completely honest, they don't really sound like map themes. They hardly sound like ambience, which makes the transitions from map themes to chase themes pretty jarring. I do absolutely love the bass last man standing theme though. Oh, and the theme that plays whenever it's a bunch of killers against one survivor. I like that one a lot too. Okay, I went off topic. The maps, gameplay-wise, are pretty fucking bad. I'd even go as far and say they have the worst map layouts I have ever seen in an Asym game. Most maps have the exact same issue, but some have unique issues, such as having giant dead zones. There are so many areas on maps that have no reason to be used aside from confusing new players and getting them killed. Maps that don't have that issue, or at least not as apparent as others, suffer from the other big issue. If I had to describe the map layouts, I would describe it as this. Am I playing Mario Kart, bro? Why are maps designed in such a way that survivors literally only have one direction to go to? Why is the only purpose of map events to entirely lock down areas of the map? Some events on maps just make it that you're forced to eventually U-turn. Any OG Forsaken player will know this, but this is the same reason why Planet Voss was reworked. It was for this exact reason. The only difference is, the killer abilities feel as if they were designed to utilize the awful layouts. I can't imagine Artful being good if it wasn't for these really short doorways that just so happen to exist just to lock down areas of the map. So yeah, killers have abilities to combat the map issues, but that doesn't make it any more fun. Aside from that, can the devs please add a volume slider for both the game, music, and emotes? The way the music is coded in can often give me a headache, as multiple tracks can be heard at once at times, and it does not make me want to play for long periods of time. I would honestly invest more time playing the game. Maybe you'd make videos on it if the maps were heavily reworked and abilities were tweaked accordingly. Still though, I can definitely see the appeal of the game, and even I find myself hopping on every now and then to play. So it's not a bad game. I'm sure some people will educate or inform me about whatever is happening behind the scenes with the development team, but I generally don't really care. I heard a lot of stuff, but I'm here to say my thoughts on the actual game, not the team. So what do I think about the game? You know how I said Outcome Memories is one of the worst Asym games I've ever played? Break It and Steal Things is the worst Asym game I have ever played. I'm absolutely positive that I have not invested enough time playing this game to truly understand it, but I don't care. I think I have a total of like 3 to 4 hours put in, and I refuse to play this game any longer for a multitude of reasons. So let me just start from the top. Okay, as a survivor, I have objectives to do. Okay, where are they? Does the game actually just show me where they are at the beginning of the match and then never again? Why am I forced to just look around and find the objectives? Why do most objectives require you to grab an object and then walk for like 5 minutes to the retrieval zone? Why is nothing in this game explained? What killer am I going against? What are they capable of? What is dealing damage to me? Why did I get the poison duration that took 95% of my health away? Got killed by a killer of which I don't understand how they work. It's okay. It'll just show me the name and I can look at the info bar. All right, let's go find this killer and look at the info tab. And I can't find it because it's a skin for a killer I don't know. This game explains nothing, and it's an insult to any new player who's trying to figure out how to play the game. What is stopping killers from camping? Nothing. There's literally nothing. And it's because I don't think there's a true win or loss in this game. Well, I mean, I guess there is, but if you play this game, you'll often see neither. Killers will often camp the objective if there's just one singular objective, and the survivors are forced to like charge and use items to stop them in their place. The gameplay loop does not interest me. It doesn't seem interesting, and it's hard to try be interested when nothing is explained. There is an insane lack of information that the game displays. It's so bad that you don't even know what your abilities are when you're the killer. It doesn't show what abilities you have in your UI. It only shows when they're off cooldown in the debuff list area. The only thing I found fun is killing my teammates. The gameplay cycle is so fucking boring that killing teammates is actually more fun than playing the game, the way it's probably intended. I mean, ragdolling and killing teammates is definitely intentionally put in, otherwise it wouldn't be possible. I don't know. I genuinely don't know how people like this game. I gave it a shot multiple times. I keep forcing myself to play this to try find something of substance, but I'm not seeing it. I guess something nice I can say about the game is some of the aesthetic. I mean, it's retro shit, I guess. But I'm not gonna lie, with the amount of modern references and skins with really obnoxious chase themes, the identity itself just seems obnoxious. Also, the chase layers aren't even coded in right. It doesn't smoothly transition from layer to layer. It just starts from the very beginning of the layer whenever you enter the range. I do really like the intermission or lobby theme that plays, or maybe it's the results theme. I don't know. Either way, I really do like that theme, and I think the voice lines for the game are also pretty cool, I guess. And I do actually like the concept of an extraction Asym game. I just think that this game executed it really poorly, but I genuinely don't know what they could do to improve it. I'm not familiar with extraction Asym games because they don't really exist. So you know what? I guess I can give props to the game for trying something new. It's still ass though, that this game wants to be a casual game so badly, yet it doesn't tell players anything. Oh, but it's fun to explore and figure out everything yourself. Shut the fuck up. It's an Asym game. It's not fun being killed for reasons you don't understand, and then not understanding how to understand it. Confused? Fucking exactly. I think I remember seeing this game come out like after a month or two after Forsaken dropped. Played it back then and just came to the conclusion that it was just another Asym game that I wasn't going to play because, well, there were just better Asym games to play. Do I feel the same way now? Being honest, yeah, kinda. It's not that it's a bad game. No, it's definitely not. It's not a bad game. There is definitely fun to be had playing. It doesn't have the most atrocious balancing, has a good amount of movesets that are fun to use, not to mention the identity of this game being charming and consistent. This game is supposed to be like a love letter to the Roblox ARG community, and that is genuinely cool. Also, the Noli shop guy is cool, but for some reason back then, I remember finding the voice lines annoying when I was browsing through the shop. I don't really find it annoying now though. I guess ultimately what makes this game not that replayable is the lack of depth this game has. In Outcome Memories and Die of Death, you don't have objectives to do, but in those games, you are incentivized to be constantly using abilities and working with your team. In Pwned, well, I do think some teamwork is involved, but most of the time you're waiting on your incredibly long cooldowns. Jacob, for example, he's really fun to play as, but his attack cooldown is crazy long. Yeah, the ability is really strong, which is why the cooldown needs to be compensated, but you could just lessen the cooldown a bit and decrease stun time. Also, going as Jacob as killer can just be frustrating. Once he's holding up his gun, the shot happens at frame 1, so you're basically just hoping they miss. There's obviously a lot more I could say, but at that point, it's just nitpicks. Again, there's not much bad to say about the game, but the gameplay itself isn't really all that crazy or different from other Asym games. I guess something that is cool is how they implemented jumping, which honestly is probably my favorite use of it. In Outcome Memories or Disaster or whatever that lame blueprint is, where you're constantly just jumping around trying to avoid attacks and get your ability off cooldowns, this game implements jumping where it really is just mostly used to navigate or avoid getting surprised hit. Jumping a lot in Chase isn't viable because it uses up stamina, which is a great way to combat the issue of having to time your attacks and not having jumping be all that punishable. As said in the beginning, this game's on the list because I personally view it as an Asym game. And because people debate if it's an Asym or not, you could probably imagine that this gameplay loop isn't your typical Asym game. Same gist, one power roll versus big lobby, except in this game, the lobby fights back. The entire game takes place in the Madness Combat universe, where a bunch of agents try to take down the Merc. As an agent, you've got guns that you can try to use to damage the Merc, and as the Merc, you got a bunch of abilities and a shitload of health. There's a variety of guns, equipment, and stuff you can use as the agents, although you will need to grind for them. Some weapons seem objectively better than others, but for the most part, all the primary weapons seem really good. Mercs are tied in with maps, so the map that's played is entirely dependent on what character's chosen. I don't think any other Asym game does that, and while some might think it's lame that if you main a Merc, you're forced to play only on one map, but I don't know, I think it's actually pretty cool. It makes it a lot easier to balance a map and makes it feel like you're playing on their map. All Mercs are differently played, and some have much lower health than others, some have ranged weapons instead of melee, and some are incredibly faster than others. I will admit though, that some Mercs are just pretty unfun to go against. Both regular Tricky and Madness Combat 2 Tricky move way too fast, which makes landing shots a lot harder and overall less satisfying. The Auditor seems practically impossible to kill. Mag Agent is really slow and I think is genuinely just a really weak character. And also Jeb. I don't know if Jeb was changed, but when I was first playing the game, holy fuck, Jeb was like my least favorite character to go against. It seemed more plausible to beat them than a character like the Auditor, but their movement and abilities seem so unfun to go against. Like, I don't even know what kills me half the time. Burger Jill, Sheriff, Damus, and Sanford have been some of my favorite characters to go against. Burger Jill, I don't know. He's really fun to play as, although he got reworked a bit when I first started working the video, so the rework seemed to have made him a bit weaker, but I don't know. I haven't had the chance to play all the characters yet, as it's a bit of a grind, but this isn't supposed to be like a super in-depth review. A couple of my initial criticisms, like some Merc abilities being too high risk, low reward, seem to have been fixed before I was able to address them, so clearly the devs are working on making this a better game. Aside from some Mercs being unfun to go against, some Mercs just feel really weak. Madness Combat 2 Tricky is the starter character, and he just seems like a character that easily gets bullied, and also really hard to play as. Again, a lot of these opinions were made like a month or two ago, and maybe the character's actually good, and it's just people haven't figured them out yet. Also, something I didn't like about the game were how games would often be stalled, usually by mag agents. I find it kinda lame how there isn't really any prevention in Merc stalling, which they would often do whenever they're low in health and they're trying to bait in agents to get easy hits or kills. Oh yeah, and there's like game modes and stuff, and people can vote on them. I guess that's kinda cool, I guess. I don't know. I do think the game is fun. People should try it out. It won't be the game for everyone, but playing it is like a nice break from the typical Asym game, so that's nice. This is a game I only came by because of a comment I read in a community post. And the only reason it's in this video is because it actually stands out. Let's get the obvious out of the way. Yes, this game definitely plays into the retro Roblox thing, but I mean, it doesn't do it obnoxiously, and it's very obviously isn't the main appeal of the game. I don't know what the identity of the game is supposed to be, but it does things that other Asym games don't. This is the first Asym game I've seen where it doesn't play into the whole choose your character with its set abilities and perks thing, because there are no characters. As both survivor and killer, you're able to choose what abilities you have, classes that alter your stats or play into a gimmick, and swords for killers that have their own unique stats. And that's pretty cool. It's an actual interesting concept, and it's not terribly implemented. Admittingly, the game doesn't seem to be in its best balanced state. Some abilities, classes, etc. do seem to overshadow others by a decent margin. Also, I don't know if it's just me, but the last man standing length seems just a tad bit short. Or maybe it's just the stamina system being seemingly too much in favor for survivors. Killer abilities can be really strong, but the cooldowns on them seem like too much at times, and the stamina system doesn't seem to favor the killers. The last man standing works kind of differently here compared to other games because survivors are actually able to open up gates and escape once all the objectives are done. However, even in those circumstances, if all of the survivors but one escape, the last man standing starts immediately regardless and the exit gates are closed. I genuinely don't hate this concept though, as it gives the killer one last chance to try get that last kill, and I think that's kind of cool. Sure, it might suck for the survivor, but hey, you're the one getting the fun with the chase interactions, so who's the real winner? Also, I gotta admit, the music in this game is pretty obnoxious. Not all of the music is bad, but some map and chase themes can be. Which, by the way, yes, the swords you equip in the shop can actually change the chase theme as well. Chase themes in general seem to be coded in kind of poorly. It seems like it's entirely based off just distance, instead of also having line of sight being a requirement. There are objectives in this game, and thankfully some of the objectives have some puzzle variety, but the main puzzle you'll see is just the flee the facility one, with you having to time your hits on 3 separate areas instead of 1, so still kind of boring. Being entirely honest though, I still kind of like this game. It's one I'll occasionally play for a couple hours and then stop for a while. It has cool concepts which makes this game stand out, and I figured I'd include it here so people watching could maybe give it a shot. This is a game I wanted to leave for last, because it's the actual first game I started playing on this channel. Before Pillar Chase, I actually made content on this game. You just can't see them because the videos are now hidden. I disappeared for like a year or two until Pillar Chase came by, and I decided to go fuck it and make videos on that game. Some people were asking me to bring back the videos over and over again as I was making every new upload, until I reached a new audience and those comments kind of just disappeared. Well, almost disappeared. There's still that one guy who has commented every time I uploaded to bring back the videos over and over again. Every new upload, every new post, he keeps commenting the same thing over and over again, and he hasn't stopped since. So fine, Hunta Cool. Do you want to know why they're private? It's because the background music was from Friday Night Funkin' Mods. No, yeah, that's literally the reason. I don't even think the videos are all that bad. I just found them really cringy just because of that. Now, why did I stop playing this game? Well, a couple reasons, but first let me actually explain what the game is. Anomalous Activities is a game very similar to The Hidden, or I guess something more familiar to compare it to, The Stalker Reborn. You have mercenaries with guns that are working together to try either neutralize the subject or to finish the objectives and survive. And the subject's objective is to simply eliminate all the mercenaries. However, what makes this game stand out is that it actually expands on the Hidden concept, not just trying to do a one-to-one blueprint copy. A truly inspired Hidden game. Mercenaries are better played in groups and not too far away from each other, but the subject has means of separating or eliminating them. They have bombs, they have abilities, they have terror forms, which can be activated outside line of sight to cause insane map pressure and to spread out players. This game has a lot to offer, and that's why I stuck by it for so long. I found my own playstyle, which was basically just bomb rush and find the subject myself and take them out by surprise. I really enjoyed playing super confidently and just forcing myself into action. I even got called out for having ESP hacks back then, as my eyes were pretty well trained and my aim wasn't too bad. I should also mention that this game has a lot of variety of weapons, abilities, and classes, terraforms, even mutations, which are kind of like subject classes which heavily alter the way you play as them. I know for sure that my preferred preferred playstyle of the game didn't align with how the game was meant to be played, but that's just because I liked playing incredibly aggressive. Even as the subject, I wouldn't even use terraforms and would often use the pure-blooded mutation, which benefited my playstyle exactly. I will admit though, I do come play the game every now and then on occasion, but I have definitely lost my touch. It is really hard for me to even locate the subject now, let alone land my shots, and playing a subject usually results in me dying like 5 seconds upon contact. I get so mad playing this game again that I genuinely think that whenever I die, it's because someone in the lobby was cheating. In short, I'm washed, and I'm never going to reach my skill level again with this game. However, I would like to say why I stopped playing this game before I quit. There's a lot of reasons, but I'll just start with the first part. Yeah, the gameplay was fun, but I wanted some sort of incentive to keep playing. There is a level up system, but it didn't really feel good just seeing a number go up infinitely. Like there wasn't really anything to get out of it. I felt like I've accomplished everything I wanted out of the game, and I didn't really see any more content to make on it, so I ended up just leaving. Of course, there are other issues at hand. A lot of the newer maps felt really bad to play on. There's one map that just has like an insane amount of bloom that really hurts the eyes and blinds your vision, especially on the pure-blooded mutation. As when the killer runs that mutation, everything becomes super bright. As a matter of fact, I don't like going against any of the mutations in the game. All of them aside from the pure-blooded one promotes a kind of pussy playstyle that encourages taking it slow, which is just not fun for me. And even then, going against pure-blooded isn't fun either. There are also some mutations and even abilities that promote a playstyle catered towards like zombie AIs and the terraforms, neither that feel fun to go against. Going against any activated terraform is just you running away to make sure you don't get hit and then spam your gun to damage them. And going against mutations and abilities that spam zombies or whatever is just really boring, dude. Like there's nothing fun about that. A lot of what the game is trying to go for is just stuff that goes against my preferred playstyle and what I personally consider to be fun about the game. So it was that, the lack of incentive and progression, and also just the lack of updates. The game was worked on independently by one person, who also happens to be the same person who made Decaying Winter. There is another game called Contact 8888, which has the environment, guns, and stuff from Anomalous Activities, but it was a PvE horde-based shooter instead. Overall, I don't think Anomalous Activities will ever be worked on again, but I'm glad I played it when I did. I still hold good memories of the game when I was actually playing it back then, and I respect the fuck out of xXthecurseXx for making games genuinely for the love of the game, and not trying to sell any sort of game passes to its player base. Not that there's anything wrong with that, of course, but not doing it is commendable. So yeah, for anyone from that audience that still for some reason watches this channel, thanks for the views, I guess. Okay, it has taken me way too long to finish this video. I started working on this like 2 months ago and I've been procrastinating like crazy. Anyways, what should we take away from this video? Well, aside from me being a negative bitch, pinpointing every flaw I can find in a Roblox Asym game, all of these games have potential. I still love playing Asym games, and I wouldn't be surprised if I play them for years to come. If you are a developer making an Asym game and want some advice specifically from me, make sure whatever you're making is original, and not just taking a blueprint from someone else one-to-one. The Asym genre isn't as limiting as you think. Look at Die of Death Man. They added so many cool and unique concepts to make the game feel chaotic and give it the casual experience so many players want. There isn't one specific way to make an Asym game. Just make sure it's fun and stands out. I see so many Asym games that come out that sadly just come off as, well, soulless. I mean, just look at Alter Ego. Like, no hate towards the developers, but that game just doesn't have anything special going for it. And it has issues from previous blueprints that aren't combated. Make something original. Add creative concepts. Don't make super team-based Asym games, especially on Roblox. Make the killer feel like the power role. Make sure both the survivor and killer experience is stimulating. Don't have survivors do nothing for majority of the game. Make sure your game is understandable without the need of reading huge paragraphs to understand abilities or mechanics. This would be part of the video where I briefly talk about the Asym game I'm working on, but there isn't really much to show right now, so yeah, sorry. No, I'm not sorry. Why would I be? It's not like you care!
Can a robot write a symphony? Can a robot turn a canvas into a beautiful masterpiece?